Before I jumped into the career as a building inspector, I was a superintendent for a home builder for a few years. And before that, I was in construction all the way up until I was probably 16. But as a superintendent, I dealt with building inspectors all the time, and I thought I had kind of generally a decent idea or image of what a typical building inspector was. But I was pleasantly surprised when I decided to jump into that career and become a building inspector myself. Now, I've been at it for almost 10 years, but when I first jumped into it, there was a few things that I didn't expect when I jumped in as a building inspector. So I thought I'd run through some of those here with you, and hopefully that'll help you make your decision and keep you moving in the right direction for you and your family. But anyways, kind of the biggest few things that I came up with were, it's not like it used to be. At least when I was a superintendent, you thought, oh man, you know, building inspectors are guys or women or that have been in the trades for, 20 or 40 years, and they've been carrying tool bags and pounding nails and all that kind of stuff for years, and then decided to become a building inspector. Not the case anymore. I mean, as far as myself is concerned, I mean, I've got some background in me, but I didn't necessarily need it to get the job. In my group, we've got someone that's a cabinet installer. We had someone that's a tin bender, a pipe fitter. We've had guys that are superintendents. We've had special inspectors that have moved over to the building inspector realm. So like a special inspector is like a private company that maybe looks at just concrete or rebar or something like that, and then they jump over into the government side of things, as far as being a building, plumbing inspector, electrical, mechanical, stuff like that. So the dynamic is changing, right? You don't have to be this person that's been in the trades for years and years. Now, granted, that kind of stuff helps you out, probably helps out on the resume. You don't have to have a 4-year degree or anything. It does help. But if you get your certifications, if you spend some time studying the code book, you get certified, you should do pretty well. You should be able to find a job out there. And at least where I worked, I didn't have to have any certifications to get started. My city that I work for, they tell you, hey, in 1 year, you need to be able to get your plumbing and your building cert, which is what I inspect for. Okay, cool. I can get that done. So it worked out great. So I guess don't be pushed away or fooled by thinking that maybe you wouldn't fit inside the career path as a building inspector. The other cool part is the demographic is changing as far as age is concerned by a lot. I was 32 when I jumped into it. When I first started, I was by far the youngest inspector in our room by years, probably 15 or 20 years. I was the youngest. And now I'm in the middle of the pack. There's some guys younger than me, some guys older than me, but it's not the typical, idea of that you have to, worked an entire career doing something else and then you hop in as a building inspector towards the end of your career before retirement. That's not the case anymore. There are all kinds of younger people jumping into plans examinations, inspector roles, engineering, planning, all those things that government agencies provide for their building department. So don't be afraid of that either. If you're the younger generation and you're interested in construction and just how things work, don't be afraid to jump into it. So the other thing, so that was kind of that's two, kind of the demographics and the age and that kind of stuff. But when you hop into the actual inspections, I didn't realize how much gray area there was, right? I mean, there's all kinds of codes out there, and you would think like, oh, well, this is how you build a handrail. This is how you build stairs. This is how you build a wall. But you go into someone's house who's building an addition, or they're finishing their basement, or they've had a fire in the house and now they're trying to fix it. I mean, there are so many gray areas. And so that's a blessing and, kind of a negative on the whole thing is that you get to work with people, but at the same time, there's nothing cut and dry to make sure that it just flows right down a line. You have to follow the intent of the code, but it may not be exact. So that was kind of eye-opening because we deal with that quite a bit, a lot more than you might think. And the other thing that kind of caught me off guard was that there are codes for everything. We have, national codes, which is like ICC. You'll have state amendments. So your state goes in and amends those codes. You have city or county municipal codes. So they have their own codes. And then there's all kinds of other codes in between all of that. And there's codes for everything. There's codes for fire, for energy, for building, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, insulation. There's concrete codes. There's rebar. If you think about it, there's a code out there for it somewhere. The question just becomes does your city or county enforce it, right? Have they adopted it? Is it part of their jurisdiction? And then depending on where you live, you might have natural disasters, you might be in earthquake areas or a hurricane or tornadoes or whatever. And so then all of a sudden you have more specific requirements just for those natural disasters. So that was hugely eye-opening to me, because I thought, you study the book and, you kind of figure out these items and you're good to go. But just the International Residential Code is like 3 inches thick. And it's like, how does a human take all that information in? And well, you don't. You just have to know where to find it, and you get to where you understand the basics and what's required, and you kind of know in your head, like, this doesn't look right. I know there's something in the code about it, and you're able to go look it up. The other item in there that just was kind of eye-opening is, not everybody lives the way you do. For good or for bad, you're going to go into tons of houses, tons of buildings, and you're just going to see a lot, whether good or bad, right? So just know that going into it. It could be unpleasant or very pleasant, but not everybody lives the way you do. Freedom, that's the other one, right? So freedom with this position is, at least within my city and my building department, is amazing. I'm allowed to just, take off my messages, find out what kind of inspections I have for that day, and you just go do them. You have people there to help you. If you've got questions on code, people to call and ask, and you can even ask contractors that you begin to trust, and you start to build some relationships. But at the end of the day, you've got the freedom to just go do it. So, and that's great. That's what I love. That's probably one of my most favorite parts about the position. And I didn't realize how much freedom I was going to get. And it works great for me. And I'm able to get my job done and move on to the next day. The other one, and the last, probably the seventh kind of thing that I knew about it, but I didn't expect it to be this low, was starting pay. I don't know if that's like that everywhere in all the building departments across the U.S. I'm sure they're all different, but at least where I worked, it's an investment. It's an investment in you and your family, to dive into that as a career, because you're working for government, and to be able to work your way up. And the way our pay scale started, it started pretty low. I definitely had to live within my means for a couple years, but after that, it totally paid off and by far surpassed my wage when I was a superintendent for a home builder. It was just those first couple years caught me off guard a little bit, but I was able to push through it and invest in myself, because you do get all the other benefits, the pensions and the retirements and the vacations and all those types of things make it worth it. And so when you're diving into it and you're thinking about going down this path, just make sure that it's something that you can commit to, and that the pay structure is going to get you where you need to go, especially in the short term. So there's kind of like my top 7, things that I didn't expect when I jumped into the building inspector role and took it on as a career. But I can tell you right now that I love it. It was a great move for me, and beyond all the things that I didn't really expect, I've pushed through them, and I just love the job. So hopefully that helps you out. My name is Ben with Building Code Tips. I got all kinds of guides and information on building code. I've got blogs and all kinds of stuff at buildingcodetips.com. It's mostly meant for homeowners and do-it-yourselfers. But if you're thinking about getting into the career and maybe you don't have a lot of experience, some of my guides might give you kind of the information on stuff that we would look for as an inspector in the residential realm of things. I also have all kinds of videos that I've been posting and trying to help out homeowners. So you can hit the subscribe button, and by all means hit the like button if this helps you out.